The stage for one of Hungary's greatest tragedies was set long before the armies ever met. In the heart of Europe, the Kingdom of Hungary stood as a bulwark, yet its foundations were cracking from within. The death of the strong King Matthias Corvinus decades earlier had created a power vacuum. Royal authority had been systematically weakened, ceded piece by piece to a quarrelsome and self-interested nobility. They prioritized their own estates and privileges over the defense of the realm. Upon the throne sat the young King Louis II, a man barely out of his teens. He inherited a crown heavy with responsibility, but light on actual power. Royal treasury was perilously empty, unable to fund a modern, standing army. The once mighty Black Army, a force of professional mercenaries, had been disbanded due to lack of pay. Hungary's southern border was a porous line of underfunded and undermanned fortresses. Meanwhile, to the east, the Ottoman Empire was reaching the zenith of its power. Sultan Süleyman I, known as the Magnificent, was a ruler of boundless ambition and formidable strategic intellect. His gaze was fixed firmly on the plains of Hungary and the path to Vienna. The Ottoman war machine was a marvel of its time, disciplined and immense. Elite Janissary infantry, armed with state-of-the-art arquebuses, formed its core. Sipahi cavalry, agile and numerous, provided unparalleled mobility. And their artillery train was second to none, capable of shattering medieval walls and formations. Geopolitical chess moved far to the west provided the immediate pretext for invasion. King Francis I, desperate to counter the power of the Habsburgs, formed an alliance with Suleiman. This alliance effectively gave the Sultan a green light to attack the Habsburg-allied Kingdom of Hungary. King Louis II sent desperate pleas for aid across Christendom. He appealed to the Pope, to England, and to his brother-in-law, Ferdinand of Austria. But Europe was preoccupied with its own conflicts, primarily the wars in Italy. Financial aid was promised, but it was too little and arrived far too late. Hungary, divided and isolated, would have to face the storm alone. In the summer of 1526, Suleiman's Grand Army began its inexorable march north. It was a force estimated between 50 and 100,000 strong. The Ottoman advance was slow, methodical, and terrifying. They bridged rivers and built roads, a logistical masterpiece of invasion. The Hungarian mobilization, in stark contrast, was chaotic and tragically slow. The nobles delayed, haggling over their obligations and waiting to see the true scale of the threat. King Louis II managed to assemble a force of perhaps 25,000 men. It was a courageous army, but outnumbered at least 2 to 1. Their greatest strength lay in their heavy cavalry, knights clad in plate armor. The leadership was placed in the hands of the warrior Archbishop Paul Tomori. Tomori, a man of faith and war, understood the gravity of the situation. Fierce debate raged within the Hungarian War Council. Some argued for a strategic retreat, to wait for reinforcements from Croatia and Transylvania. Others, fueled by a mixture of pride and recklessness, demanded an immediate, decisive battle. They argued that to retreat would be a national dishonor. Ultimately, the Council for Aggression won the day. The chosen battlefield was a large, open, and deceptively flat plain near the town of Mohács. This terrain, they believed, would be ideal for their heavy cavalry charge. It was a fatal miscalculation. The Hungarians were unaware that the Ottomans had anticipated this very tactic. Suleiman had prepared a trap. On the morning of August 29th, 1526, the two armies faced each other. Light rain fell, making the ground soft and treacherous. The air was thick with tension and the smell of damp earth. The Hungarian plan was simple and brutally direct. They would smash the Ottoman center with an overwhelming cavalry assault. In the early afternoon, the trumpets sounded the charge. The right flank of the Hungarian army, led by Timuri himself, surged forward. The ground thundered under the weight of thousands of armored knights. They crashed into the Ottoman vanguard, composed of irregular Akinci cavalry. The initial shock was immense, and the Ottoman line buckled. For a fleeting moment, it seemed as though a miracle was possible. Hungarian knights, sensing victory, pushed deeper into the enemy ranks. But they were being drawn into the heart of the Sultan's carefully laid trap. As the Hungarians advanced, the Ottoman center deliberately parted. They were funneled into a killing zone. Suddenly, a deafening roar erupted from the Ottoman lines. Suleiman had unleashed his hidden artillery. 300 cannons fired at point-blank range into the dense ranks of the Hungarian cavalry. The effect was catastrophic. Men and horses were torn apart by a storm of iron. Charge lost all momentum, dissolving into chaos and horror. Before the survivors could regroup, the second part of the trap was sprung. The elite Janissary infantry, who had been waiting behind the cannons, advanced. They unleashed disciplined volleys of musket fire into the stunned Hungarians. The knights' plate armor, so effective against swords, offered little protection against bullets. Simultaneously, the Sipahi cavalry, which had feigned retreat, wheeled around and attacked the Hungarian flanks. The Hungarian army was now completely encircled. The Hungarian infantry, left exposed by the destruction of their cavalry, were now easy targets. They fought bravely, forming desperate squares of pikes and halberds. But they were systematically cut down by cannon, musket, and cavalry charges. The battle turned into a slaughter. In less than 2 hours, the Royal Army of Hungary was annihilated. The retreat was as disastrous as the battle itself. King Louis II, unhorsed and weighed down by his armor, tried to escape. He fell into the Celia stream and, unable to rise, tragically drowned. His body would not be found for 2 months. The king was dead, and with him, the Jagiellonian dynasty in Hungary. The losses among the Hungarian leadership were staggering. Archbishop Timuri, the commander, fell fighting. 7 bishops and 28 barons were also killed. The entire political and military elite of the kingdom had been wiped out in a single afternoon. Suleiman himself was reportedly shocked by the totality of his victory. He had not intended to conquer all of Hungary, merely to cripple it. The Sultan famously remarked, "May Allah be merciful to him and punish not the Hungarians for his sin." The immediate aftermath was a power vacuum. With the king dead and no clear heir, the nation was left rudderless. The surviving nobles quickly fell back into their old habits of dissension. 2 rival kings were elected by competing factions of the nobility. Count Záporla was chosen by one group, representing the National Party. Ferdinand of Austria, Louis's brother-in-law, was elected by another. This division plunged the already broken kingdom into a devastating civil war. The Ottomans exploited this internal conflict to solidify their gains. Suleiman captured the capital city of Buda without a fight. The Kingdom of Hungary was ultimately fractured into 3 parts. The central portion, including Buda, became a province of the Ottoman Empire. The western and northern territories, known as Royal Hungary, fell under Habsburg rule. Transylvania, in the east, became a semi-independent vassal state of the Ottomans. This division would define the region for the next century and a half. The Battle of Mohács marked the end of the independent, medieval kingdom of Hungary. It is etched into the Hungarian national consciousness as a day of profound trauma. A common Hungarian saying, "More was lost at Mohács," reflects this deep sense of loss. The battle demonstrated the superiority of combined arms tactics, including firearms and artillery. It was a brutal lesson for European armies still reliant on the shock of heavy cavalry. The political disunity of the Hungarian elite was a primary cause of the disaster. Their inability to present a united front proved fatal. The sacrifice of the soldiers who fought and died was immense. They stood against impossible odds with courage. The field of Mohács became a symbol of both heroism and tragic failure. The conquest of Hungary opened the door for the Ottoman siege of Vienna a few years later. The balance of power in Central Europe was irrevocably shifted. The memory of the battle would haunt Hungary for generations. It served as a cautionary tale about the dangers of internal division. The fall of Buda was a psychological blow to all of Christendom. The Ottoman Empire now had a firm and lasting foothold in Central Europe. The plains of Mohács fell silent, bearing witness to the end of an era. The story became one of what if, a lament for a lost kingdom. If only the reinforcements had arrived in time. If only the nobles had united. If only a different strategy had been chosen. These questions would echo through Hungarian history. The battle itself was a brutal, swift, and decisive affair. The Hungarian knights displayed immense bravery in their charge. Their courage, however, was no match for modern firepower. The Ottoman army was a professional, meritocratic force. The Hungarian army was a feudal relic by comparison. The loss of the king was the final, devastating blow. It decapitated the state and the army in one stroke. The field was plundered for days after the battle. Thousands were taken into slavery. The heartland of Hungary was left depopulated and ruined. The battle was a stark turning point in military history. It signaled the decline of the knight and the rise of the infantryman. The psychological impact on Hungary was profound and lasting. The nation's confidence was shattered. The name Mohács became synonymous with disaster. The Ottoman victory was complete and undeniable. Suleiman had proven his military genius to the world. The road to Vienna now seemed open. The defense of Europe would fall to the Habsburgs. The Hungarian people would endure a long period of foreign domination. But the memory of their lost kingdom would never fade. The battle was over, but the struggle for Hungary had just begun. The sun set on the kingdom of Hungary, casting a long shadow over its future. The silence on the battlefield was a testament to the immense loss of life. The Seli stream, a minor creek, became a legendary gravesite. Flower of Hungarian nobility lay dead on the field. Their colorful banners were now just tattered rags in the mud. The Ottoman camp, in contrast, was orderly and disciplined even in victory. Suleiman had achieved a victory far greater than he had anticipated. The news of the defeat sent shockwaves across the continent. For the people of Hungary, it was the beginning of a long and dark night. The Battle of Mohács remains a pivotal and somber moment in European history.